On this week's episode, we talk about motivation,
The highs, the lows, and what affects ours.
the importance of having a co-founder, and Neil takes a bath with his sourdough.
Ha, yes I do. All that and more coming up.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm Neil.
And I'm Matt, and we are the Invention Junkies.
We lost our jobs at a high-tech startup to 3 months to start a successful design business on our own.
Listen in to follow our story, relive our failures, and join us on this race against the clock.
So to kick us off, I think we should talk about how we started the week with the highs and lows of motivation this week. There was a big peaks and big troughs.
Classic founder journey. I think like the roller coaster of emotion that you're on, and you can't get off.
Yeah, it's surprising how you know what you should do and what you shouldn't do, how you should think and shouldn't think, but you just can't avoid it.
It's so easy to spiral into, I think, extremes of either as well. It can be a negative spiral of like all the things that you haven't done or need to do, or all the worries you have, and then it also goes the flip side. Less this week, but oh yeah, this is going to make it, we're going to be millionaires, oh we should do all of this stuff, and it's like both are equally dangerous, and you kind of need to like skirt the line of staying motivated and on focus, but also not being pulled in either direction. And I think you've probably had a bit of a lower week this week, and that's how we came in with some of the worries creeping back in. So I think we've got quite an appropriate segment to open on.
Yeah.
If you want to take us away.
Yeah, so you may have guessed, our theme of the week is... Oh no, sorry.
I did that wrong.
This all has to stay in now.
I was gonna come in and say motivation, but actually I should. Yeah, I did that wrong. Oh, it's been a long week. So this week's theme of the week is all about motivation.
Yes, it is.
So I'll just give a little bit from the journey that I went through. Normally over the weekend we have a bit of backwards and forwards on messages and ideas, and we think things improve. My focus was on improving the podcast, because growing the podcast grows the audience, grows the following, which grows the reach, so that when we come to launch a product, we can reach more people. It all knocks on. And when we discussed it on Monday morning, the balance was, what if we're spending more time on the podcast and no time on the product development? Where's the balance? And it all comes back to this whole time balance of where to put your effort. So on Monday I did a bit more research and stumbled across a few other podcasts and sort of looked into them to get an idea of format and what they're doing and those sorts of things. And I saw one which actually completely sucked the motivation out of me. And I didn't realise it at the time, but I think this was the thing that did it. And it was a guy who has a podcast, been doing it for a year, had a big following, interviewed various people, and nice guy, nothing against him. But the demotivating part that struck me was he was, 23, 24.
Had about 3 different businesses on the go.
Made it seem like it was, very easy, and then all of a sudden, then you're comparing, and you're going, well, if he's got this many businesses and he's doing this well, what am I doing wrong? I can't do this. Clearly, I've not got it. And then you start spiraling, because you're all of a sudden comparing yourself to what this guy's doing and what you're doing, and it's the saying is, comparison is a thief of joy, and you should only be comparing yourself against yourself and those sorts of things. And even though you know that, it's still difficult to get out of your head when that is the case.
We went on a mini rant about social media, and I think everyone knows the negative impacts of social media, and especially the way that you put up this filter on your life, and a lot of people show the best things, and it makes other people think that they can have those things, or those things are realistic, or whatever. And it's well known, but it doesn't make it any more difficult. And I think the problem is when you're researching with a sort of entrepreneurial business mindset, you think that all of these things are going to be like really helpful. You're going to get all these tips, and this is how I start a successful business. And actually, it's the same thing. And it's a lot of people talking about, you know, the success, the miracles, and it's a bit like a lot of them, not all of them, but it's a bit like someone saying, "Oh yeah, you know, do the lottery, you'll win. It's great." Yeah, you know, the lottery is a surefire way to fund your success, and it's like, well, no. And even in, you know, this one that you'd been demotivated by, he kind of talks about, like, you know, he was successful because of like familial wealth, and he was very lucky because of that, and he wasn't even, you know, doing it in a negative way, but I think it's still very difficult to not be comparing yourself when you're doing this research and finding these things.
Although one thing that came out of it, he did say, you know, the main reason was because he had a wealthy family who funded a lot of his success, and it's you've got this. There's a triangle, the time, quality, cost triangle. So if you like when you learn how a fire is made with fuel and oxygen and heat.
I love that that's what you went for. Like, all of our listeners are going to be like, yes, the good old fire triangle that I have burnt into my memory.
Do you have a better example?
No, mine is like speed, distance, time. I don't have it.
Such an engineer. You know pyramids. You know the pyramids in Egypt.
You know, that three-sided shape.
Yeah, it's called a triangle. So if you've got cost on one side, time on the other, and quality, you can never have all three. And I think the main positive I took out of this sort of thought spiral was, we're trying to do we don't have much time. We want everything done quickly. We want the quality to be high enough to our standards. And we're doing it low cost.
And I think we can't, all of those things don't work.
We want, and that currently the thing that's suffering is the time. That's the thing, it's taking up more time. So we actually need to put in more money into, you know, advertising and in other processes that we're doing manually, because that's putting that cost up is actually going to bring the time down. I don't think we have done some sacrificing on quality on different areas that we're happy with regards to the social media, and where it doesn't matter.
That's a really subtle dig at some of the shorts that have gone out. So we alternate who edits our footage every week, and I'm much less experienced, and so it takes me a little bit longer. And I'm also me, and our polar opposites are I'm a bit faster and looser with things like this, and Neil is more meticulous and methodical, and, you know, has processes for things. And the last time it came to editing, I was like, I just pick random things, I'll just slap them together and we'll just post that, it's fine, you know, it's socials, don't need a lot of time on this. And he was just like, you know, twitching and very uncomfortable with this. I'm very grateful he's let us try it, and we'll have the analytics coming back, and, you know, it's all part of testing. But I love that you managed to get that in the podcast. Well done.
I wasn't actually thinking of that. I was thinking something completely different. But that's you know, if you've got a lot of funding behind you, everything is a lot easier. And we're trying to grow things organically as quickly as possible. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. Yeah. You need to put the money in. So that was the thing that came out of it. And I think motivation is. You have highs and lows, and it's very easy to be motivated by you get excited about the things that you're doing and how well things are coming together. There's going to be dips. I mean, we've been going for a few months now, so I think that was probably the biggest motivational dip that I had. And I didn't even think, this is a waste of time. It was more of a frustration that this isn't working as quick as I'd like it to.
But the other side to it as well, I think the biggest benefit is having a co-founder to talk
to help you through it. And I think we've both had wobbles along the way and needed each other to pull us out. And I've tried a few different times to start my own things, and they've never really gone anywhere. And it's because I think I needed that second person. And our personalities are similar in some areas, but different in others. So it's really good that our differences challenge us to get out of our own head, because, like you say, I can get stuck in a spiral of trying to make things perfect, and you'll say doesn't matter, And so, and I'm aware of that. So, like now, for example, with
The shorts that went out, I was like, okay, this makes me uncomfortable, but let's just see. It's low risk. I'd never come in it from this way, so it's a nice way of thinking about it.
I think that just to add on the flip side of that, I don't want it to come across like I just, bring you down to my level. There was a moment, I'm going to give a little bit away here, but we were doing some fabrication this week, and there was a moment when you wanted to like finish something off, and I was like, oh, do we really need to like finish it off like that? I was, sanding something down. And you're like, yeah, because like splinters and stuff. And I was like, you know what, actually, this is one of those moments where it does matter because we're looking at, user experience. And again, not going to try and give anything away, but I was like, he's right. This is something that's worth the details, worth the time. And so I took that responsibility. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove that I can do this meticulous detail thing. You get on with the next step of the fabrication and I'll do this. And I made a point of like going down every groove with the sandpaper like I knew that you would. And I like made sure, and I was like running my hands up, and I was like, yeah, no, it has to be to Neil's standard of quality because this is important. But yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. It's nice that we can bring each other up when it's needed to the right level.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other side to it as well is there's two sides to feeling like you're doing something useful. And
yeah.
So first part of the week you was doing some of the heavy sort of design stuff, and there wasn't much I could do, so I was doing more of the admin stuff, and
quickly felt like I wasn't adding much value.
So needed to do something where I felt like I was being more useful, and that was only up until like Monday, Tuesday, so it's only a couple of days, so it wasn't a roller coaster.
Yeah,
but it was that was also a nice reminder of how you shouldn't be shooting from the hip, and you can shoot from the hip a couple of times, but if your whole plan and roadmap is just doing whatever you feel excited about on that day, you just end up excited and motivated, but going around in circles. And it's really that was a nice sort of eye opener to, we've made a plan, stick to the plan, go back to the plan. If the plan's not working, you can adjust the plan, but you shouldn't just think, oh, I'll do this because this feels like it's useful. You should be,
asking yourself, is it why challenging?
Because it makes you excited doing it, maybe it's not the right step to do if it doesn't actually get you closer to where your goal is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's maybe a nice segue into, revisiting some of the plans that we keep revisiting. Our social strategy, I think, is something that we struggle with the most because, we're not familiar with it. We've never done it before. And it's this kind of stealthy juggernaut that everyone, oh yeah, social media, you need social media managers. It's this really important thing. You go, yeah, sure, whatever. It's just social media. I scroll social media. I know social media. This is easy. And then it comes to it, and you're like, this is not easy. Like, It is a monster. And we say it every week because I think it's the thing that we struggle with the most. It's the thing that we really battle with the motivation behind that of where we put our time. We could have the best product and not be able to sell it because we haven't done any of this social media. But we could have great social media and then not have a product to sell or have a rubbish product, and that would just completely kill our motivation and sense of purpose behind the business.
I think that could be a bit of a limitation sometimes because you see the success stories that are demotivating. And I saw one about how this company grew their brand, their social media, by however many tens of thousands in a couple of days just by doing this big giveaway.
And I thought, well, you could do that, obviously, if you had the stuff to give away, but that just made me feel like...
You're just giving stuff away. You're just generating more stuff that the world doesn't need. Like, who needs branded hats and tote bags and all this sort of... it's just like... It's junk and it's crap that no one's ever going to want, and they want a free thing, and that's exciting for a couple of minutes, and then it ends up in landfill, essentially. So I think one of our downsides is that we are being quite, moral about what we're doing, and if it doesn't fit with what we believe in, then we're not going to do it. So we're not following the conventional rules as well. So that's
yeah. Next week we'll be introducing the Invention Junkies beanie. You can buy it on. No, I'm joking.
And tote bag and water bottle as well. Don't forget the water bottle. Don't get me started on water bottles. That is a rant for a whole nother episode.
Please not today. I've heard it too many times.
Yeah.
But we've been looking at how we make our social strategy a bit more personable, and thinking about one of the discussions was, you don't really connect with brands. I think there's a lot of work in connecting with a brand. You don't think, oh, Apple is my friend. I think even people that really love Apple or iPhone don't go as far as to think that they have this, relationship with Apple. But Steve Jobs, who is a really good comparison, is people really liked Steve Jobs and would follow Apple as a way of following Steve Jobs. And so we've, this is going to sound like we're comparing ourselves to Steve Jobs. I do not think we are Steve Jobs. But we think it's easier to connect with people. So we've been practicing getting very uncomfortable and recording or talking about what it's like being a founder, and in particular of being a founder of a physical product company. There's a lot of niche things that come out when you're actually making something that's real and tangible and in the physical space. And so we're looking for the little quirks in what is our everyday lives that other people don't necessarily experience because they're not doing the things that we're doing. And I practiced earlier this week. I sent a video to Neil because I had a number of 3D printers in printing. One of them has quite a large, noisy fan, and I'd put it in my kitchen because I didn't want it to keep me awake overnight because otherwise it would have been close to the bedroom. Nearly killed myself getting this thing down the stairs anyway. And the video was basically just, this is my kitchen. I'm basically shouting, you can't hear me. I leave the kitchen. This is the other room. You can't hear me because the other printer's going. And he thought, oh, that's really funny. It shows, what we're up to. And then one of my favorite things you've ever told me, you have to tell everyone about your dough.
Well, this was Wednesday now. So I'd climbed out of the pit of despair and was now much more motivated because we had a good day Wednesday. It seems like we had a lot of wins Wednesday. Wins Wednesday. Yep, thank you. And we'll talk about those in a sec. But yeah, a lot came in at the same time. And so motivation peaked. It was like, great, this is all good. So very keen to... I forget what I was exactly doing on Wednesday afternoon, but I was also making some bread.
Which was a sourdough loaf, which you do the day before. And it's actually you was coming around on Thursday, so I was sort of prepping it.
And, trying to impress me, yeah.
Yeah, I just make bread in my spare time. It's easy. I've got loads of time. And this particular recipe needed you to sort of fold it in the bowl every 20 minutes or whatever it was. And I was losing too much time running downstairs to the kitchen to fold this bowl of dough and put the cling film back on and then wash my hands and obviously before and then after because I'm doughy handed and then come back up. It wasn't working and I was getting frustrated that it was taking so much time. So I brought the bowl of dough up and put it in the bath, which is the bathroom next to me.
So that every time my timer went off, I just quickly run
in the bathroom to do this thing with the dough, which is in a bowl in the bath. It wasn't just loose in the bath. And then
bath full of sourdough, love it.
Yeah, I just cut out the time it took me to run downstairs because it wasn't just walking to the kitchen. It was on the way. I'd meet all the various people in the neighbourhood who are in a house every day. It's quite a social house. Who I'd have to chat to or feel bad about not talking to, and I cut all of that out. So that was yeah. I hope.
And these are the 1% that people talk about stacking up as, I bought the sourdough up to the bath so I could save an extra couple of minutes, so I could spend those couple of minutes doing whatever it was, CAD or business focused stuff. There was another moment which I really liked, and this is probably going to start bordering into the in-person day, which was we've had snow in the UK this week in November, and I came down to Neil's, and the snow started falling, and then it got heavier and heavier, and it was pretty cold, as you'd expect when it's snowing. And Neil's shed is at the end of his garden, and we kind of like trudge through the snow with this fabrication that we have to do. And I've got a little clip of us just sort of shivering in the shed, and you're like there with the table saw, and it's just like blizzard outside, and it's just like, what are we doing? we're choosing to do this. Like, no one's forcing us to do this. But I think that's the nice thing, is even in the lows of sort of like morale, there's still this intrinsic motivation, and I don't regret a second of what we're doing.
Yeah. Should we post those clips somewhere?
Yes, we should. Talk us through some of the wins we've had.
Yeah, let's go through our wins this week. We
Shouted out a company called Fairphone last week on the socials and tagged them in a couple of posts. And we got an interaction back, which was nice. Yeah, they commented back on a couple of posts on different platforms. So we called that one a win. That's a win because when a company with a big following interacts with your page, it helps boost the reach that the algorithm pushes you to, and those sorts of things, and everyone sees that they have commented on yours, so it gets more eyeballs on your pages. So that was good.
And it's a little bit of validation as well that someone's seen this thing, like it's gone out, someone's seen it, and they've gone, oh yeah, look, I like this. This is. I know it's easy to put companies on a pedestal, and Fairphone are quite a big company, but the fact that they're taking notice of us is nice, and it warms your heart a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. We had a lot of time gone into CADing this week, these various parts that we 3D printed, and they've all come out brilliantly. We're not showing them intentionally because obviously we don't want to show all of our secrets just yet. But there's a few next to me here, and we tested them in person and performed really well. And it led on to some
nice user testing, or sort of impromptu user testing
on Thursday with various people coming through and testing this thing we've made. If I do. And
I think there's just before we do the testing, it's the almost panic of excitement. It's brilliant because it was snowing. All of the kids that were around were very excitable, and they left and went to school. But the excitement stayed, and we were running around the kitchen. Your kitchen island where we do all the work was just a complete mess, littered with all of these bits of plastic and 3D prints and knives and drills and all the tools we were using to cobble this together, because it is still a prototype. And literally, we were both running to and from the thing that we're assembling, and it would let's put this 3D print on this thing that's not a 3D print, and it clips, or it makes a noise, or it sits right, and we're just ooh, and we're just such a good feeling having this thing come together that's been a little bit ethereal, a little bit not real. And the CAD model really brings it together because you can see a thing in a physical space, but then actually having that in the real world, being able to interact with it is just amazing. And that's why user testing gave us so much, because we had this thing that we could test on people.
Yeah, definitely. And it was nice to show
everybody the different features that this thing has, how it moves in different ways that you wouldn't expect a traditional one of these things to... Oh God, I feel so bad. It's to store clothes, that's all I say. So this unit to store clothes, how it works, and how it's different to everything else that's out there. And it was really interesting to test different lengths of things and distances and shapes and sizes, and say, okay, now do this, okay, now turn around, and we would turn a few screws and change the configuration. What do you think about this? And then, oh wow, I love this. And then okay, great, what do you love about it?
Tell me more. And then turn around, change a few things, and then it's
oh, I hate that. Oh, that's horrible. Oh,
it
I
makes
really
me feel sick.
Yeah, and all you've done is change the length of something slightly, and it just looks a little bit differently. And it was really nice just to test that and get that feedback. And we got some feedback that was the same across the board. For some things were changed, and some things were very varied. So we're learning that the thing that was varied, this is something that a user would want to configure. If it was the same opinion across the board, then it's probably something that we just lock in and don't do that, and it's not a user configurable part. So really useful day.
And I think just a nod to the way that we do the testing. We've read a lot from there's a book called Sprint, and that's got a lot on how to observe in research. And we've been reading and practicing these things for quite a while now as part of a previous job and way that we've approached surveys and things as well. But we actually by default fell into this, you were the leader of the interaction. You'd exhibit the features, and I was just sitting there kind of quietly watching, and I was trying to, at one point I was oh, can you just do that again? And they did it again, and I was okay, right, yeah, cool. Because I just wanted to see if you came up to the balls of your feet, to see if you changed position. And it's being able to have someone lead the interaction. Oh, are you doing this thing? How do you feel about this? Whatever, asking the questions, and then having someone else separate from it that can make the notes and see the things that you can't see when you're doing it. And we swapped a little bit later on in the day, but I think that's a really nice trick if you're ever in the experience where you're trying to do some user testing. If you can't be the one that's observing, you have to be the one that's leading, then just like set up a camera and you can use the camera as a way of observing passively.
Yeah, it's a really good book, actually.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in the show notes. It's not just for people are normally assigned sprints with the Agile project management method, which is software development, but actually it's how to design anything in a 1 week sprint, and how
the process you go through, how you pick what problem you're solving
for that product, and how you prototype and how to do it quickly, and then how you do the user testing. There's lots of steps to it, and I think it was one of our Bibles that we refer to as a Bible. We've got quite a few Bibles that are building up there. A pile of Bibles from all the different gods that we follow.
Yeah.
Right, okay. That takes us nicely to this week's
Problem of the week. I tried to do a spin and then I realised I couldn't, so I kind of like swapped direction, and it looked like I was doing some sort of like dodge in a sports game. Problem of the week. Our problem of the week this week comes from a listener, which is our favourite thing ever, because it means we've had an interaction. Someone is out there listening and has heard our call, our desperate plea to please send in your problems. And we have one. So here it is. It came from interacting with their children. And should I read the message?
Yeah, I mean, you could read the important parts.
So, thinking about it when brushing my kids' teeth, usually use cold water for herself, but needing to use warm water to wash their faces. Otherwise, they scream. So we have the tap goes on, but it has to run for it to become warm. And what a waste of water that is, because you've got all this water that's like running because you just want to get the pipes warm and get the hot water out, but you're not actually using the water that's coming out. So how can we fix this problem? Yeah. I hope she knows that we are not going to give her an actual practical solution to this.
Well, you never know. You never know.
This could be a first, yeah.
So I mean, it is a problem in when you know, if it's in the bathroom and you're the furthest point from your heating system, if you've got a traditional boiler, because you know, especially when it's cold, because that hot water's got to go all the way from the boiler to where you are, and the pipes are cold and they're warming up and sucking the temperature out of the water and blah blah blah. Yeah. So there are some solutions for this for industrial building, or you know, larger buildings. It's called trace heating. So you have a heated wire that runs down the pipe that's like cable tied to the pipe, and then there's insulation that goes around the outside, and that keeps the water at a certain temperature, so that when the water comes on, the water that's already in the pipe is maintained at temperature, so that it's always it doesn't get too cold.
I would assume that there's a higher energy consumption for something like that, because you've always got this sort of like passive heating going on.
Yeah, and I guess it's in a big building, you've got a lot of demand, so a lot of water going backwards and forwards. So that's why it works, because
the water's not sat there for a long period of time, not being heated, not being used. It's always being pulled off in different areas. So it means that you can have your heating point further away from the end users. So that's a known one.
And I think similar to that sort of leapfrogging is the instant hot kitchen taps that you get. So they have usually a sort of like hot water reservoir that they maintain the heat of. That's how you get your instant heat. You have the same problem with these instant hot taps, where you've got this sort of passive energy consumption to keep this tank warm, and if you're not using it, then what's the point in it? But maybe you could have like a schedule system. If it's a regular activity like brushing your teeth, I expect you're doing it early in the morning and last thing at night. There's some sort of semi-regularness to it. So maybe it doesn't have to be quite as inefficient as always having a hot tank that's on, but it could be, at 8 o'clock it comes on for 10 minutes and then goes off.
Well, I mean, we could actually dig deeper into the problem here, and what's the real problem. So I use
having children.
Yeah, that's normally the main problem. I use cold water for myself, so it could be that you use warm water for yourself, or just use cold water for their faces and let them scream.
Yeah, earplugs offenders, these are effective solutions, especially, I'm sure children scream for other things, so we could be solving some other problems at the same time.
Yeah, you could wash their faces closer to the, if your water heater's in the kitchen, you could do all the face washing there. You could wash faces at the time of day when you've got, maybe after you've done the washing up and you've got a sink full of dishwasher water, which is still warm. Use that, so you're not, it's not just you're reusing wastewater. That could be another solution there.
I know that there's a growing trend, and there's this thing about water recapture. So there's different grades of water. You say grey water is water that's come out of a tap but isn't necessarily dirty water. I think brown water is water that comes from a toilet that's usually been used. So you get these I think toilets that use the cistern to wash your hands, so it's not like a waste of water. Obviously, you don't get heated water from that. But maybe there's some sort of water recapture so that you're not losing this water that's come off your tap in the first place. I know there's some showers that are starting to recapture the same problem. When you turn the shower on, you've got to wait for the shower to get hot. So it's not just an isolated issue in the sink.
I mean, that's actually parallels to our sewage problem we spoke about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because this is how the sewers get overwhelmed, is because of there's no segregation between grey water, which is runoff from sort of basins and stuff, and sewage water from your toilets, and water off the roads as well. I think that's still classed as grey, but there's no reason why that couldn't go into a system where it needs much less cleaning to be used, or I don't know, it goes into a tank under your house so you can use it in the summer to wash your garden with, or water your garden.
Yeah, I also think maybe there's another solution in the way you kind of practice these things. You could turn the kettle on, use warm water from the kettle, but I'm not advocating that we wash children's faces with boiling water. Please don't do that.
Glad you put that caveat in there. Because
I'm not sure that would help with the screaming.
I mean, you could, the local heating is a solution, I think. But I just don't like those hot water taps that you get the instant boiling water from, because of the big tank you need underneath it. It looks so simple and effortless and fancy, but you lose so much under the cupboard, and you've got this big tank of water that's always boiling, just so that when you use it once or twice a day, you can get a hot cup out of it. I think it's fine if again, high turnover if it's in an office where you get a lot of people making cups of tea and things, but otherwise.
This made me think of something you told me. I'm gonna not throw you under the bus, but just reveal a little bit of an insight on the kind of person you are and how much you care about efficiency. So you've talked about how you'd rather have an efficient light bulb over a chocolate Easter egg before.
Yep.
Listen to a previous podcast if you don't know what I'm talking about. And you once told me that you have a system so that you use the hot water that's in the pipe so that it hasn't gone to waste.
Wish I never told you that. I do that.
I'd forgotten I did that. But what I do is, so if someone's used the hot water, right, and I need to, I'll just turn the tap on low, so it's not fast enough to trigger the boiler to come in, but I'm just getting that hot water coming through the pipe. So, and then when it starts coming through cold, I'll switch it off because I've used it, and then I feel good about myself. But it could be, actually just thinking about this now, maybe this is a bad thing, because if I do that and then someone comes along and wants to use some hot water again, then they've got to reflush the system. So there's flaws in my
Yeah, I think a smarter or a more intelligent water system. I think heating is getting smarter, but we're not necessarily getting smarter with the water. And heating, the future of heating at least is thermostats that self-regulate each room. You now get smart radiator valves, but I don't think hot water has quite reached the same level. And maybe when you're installing pipes on a new build, you have a temperature sensor in the bathroom that knows and starts to learn when you want the hot water in the bathroom, and you've got one in the kitchen, and maybe it's starting to have water ready for when you want it, like heating is starting to be, hotter when you want it, and you get these lower peaks, and it means it's more efficient overall. So this was, I've surprised myself, because this was quite a productive conversation.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about lasers or poo.
I have got one that's going to bring it down. I just thought then you could just put a tap on a radiator and wash your face with radiator water.
Might be a bit hot.
Well, and also, I mean, I'm not sure if you've ever smelt radiator water with all the things that stop it chalking up. It's very
Yeah.
acidic smelling, but it's hot
Okay,
water.
what about wet wipes on the radiator? There we go. Never have to turn the
Problem solved.
tap on. Yeah.
Just don't wash your face. Don't get dirty face in the first place.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
I don't know why we didn't start with this. What a silly
Yeah. Oh, God. We massively overthink things. Great. Okay.
Let's end it.
Let's end this thing. All right. So the usual weekly roundup. Thanks
Yeah.
to everyone that listens. We are extremely grateful. Thank you for sending
So
in your
grateful.
problems for us to solve.
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming, indeed.
If you want to hear anything differently, please let us know. We love the feedback. It's all about the feedback.
Please shout us out on social media. Interact with us. It does help grow our channel. The more interactions and comments and likes and all those things. Like, share, subscribe. I hate the phrase, but it works, unfortunately.
Please, please, please. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, Matt, sing us out. What are you going to sing today?
I think I'm just going to do the usual, we'll start the backing, here we go, and that's it. Invention Junkies out.